right. So Gilbert, while we're reaching out to them, going ahead and do the introduction. And then I know that you have to leave. So we're going to go ahead and start with you. I'm going to introduce myself in a little bit, and then we'll start right into the presentation. Okay.
All right. Well, I'm Gilbert Bennett with My Easy Mortgage, and what I do right now primarily is I'm a mortgage broker with folks on VA lending, but we do most residential mortgages, whether they be purchase, money refinances, or investment. Right. My history with real estate investing is I actually started in 2007 with my first foray into investment real estate. And I still own that piece of property, and I've bought and sold a number in between, and have about 16 or 17 doors I own right now. So I've worked the wholesale angle, which I know is the focus of today's presentation, or the focus of today's corner Class Tampa. And I tell you, it helped me make the down payment money to buy my first house and then my second house, because it was, my strategies, there's a whole lot of ways to do it. And I think one of the benefits of having multiple people talk to you about it is you can hear different strategies and figure out which one might work best for you, for your budget, and for your time budget as well, with the amount of time you have available.
All right, thank you, Gilbert. Okay, so my name is David Carmena. Again, I want to welcome you guys to Corner Class Tampa CCT5. This is our 5th Corner Class Tampa. Just to recap just a little bit, because we have a couple of new people that have joined, and we still have a couple more people that are in the waiting room. We're going to try to get them into the class here shortly. But the first two classes, we talked about capital. We talked about the different type of conventional means to get capital for your deal, as well as unconventional means through trade lines and lending, non-conventional lending, that type of thing. So we covered that the first two classes. Then we went in. We talked about a little bit about flipping, identifying the property that is a good deal that you can use to flip. The last class was wholesaling. We covered identifying a property that is a good wholesale property. If you remember, Rodney presented a home that was a little kind of disheveled. I'm going to go into that a little bit more about identifying the property after Gilbert. And then lastly, we talked about an absentee owner and how to contact that absentee owner. Well, this particular class, we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're going to dig deeper. We're going to discuss the back end, what do you use to attract, to maintain constant contact with that owner, to ultimately get that owner under contract, and then ultimately sell that contract to the end buyer. So Gilbert, again, my name is David Carmena, Community Enterprises. We are a full service of companies dealing with all things real estate, from property management to sales, to rental properties, to investment properties. And soon to come, we have a couple of very exciting ventures that we enter into. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about that, probably next corner class or the CCT 7. But Gilbert, could you cover a little bit about? Let me set the stage a little bit. So again, last class, if you remember, last master session, Rodney had identified a property. We said that property was most likely an absentee owner. In fact, if you remember, he looked into the county records and found that the one way to identify if the owner of the property is absentee is that if the mailing address is different from the property address, the site address, then it's most likely that owner is probably absentee, is probably out of state owner. So take it from there, Gilbert. You have a property that is a good potential to wholesale. You've already canvassed the area. You know that the after repair value of the home to an end user. You know what that price point is. You estimated. You have an idea of what. I'm sorry, Gilbert.
I think your connection's going out, Dave. You froze up for a minute there.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah,
I have a strong signal here, but go ahead, take it from there, Gilbert.
Let's
Let me see
talk
if I can
about
get
a couple things. So I know Rodney talked about, identifying the absentee owner, looking up the record. Sometimes if finding that owner is really the key to making money, right? And trying to find that owner for as little as possible is the key to making money. So how do you do that? A few ways to do that. I think Rodney had talked about different options. Skip tracers, which are private investigators who will, if you give them a name and a prior address, they'll identify the person, find the person for you. A method I had mentioned in that same session was when you find an absentee owner in a vacant property, I bet you the neighbors know something, right? And so I offer rewards to the neighbors for contact information. How do you do it? You can first start it by knocking on the door if you're comfortable doing that with the neighbors. But I used to buy signs. They cost 99 cents a sign. And the sign literally said, if you know who owns this house, please call me. I'll pay you if $500 if they sell it to me so I can make it beautiful. That would be it. And the neighbors, I've picked up multiple properties that way. Instead of throwing signs up all around neighborhood like you see, hey, we buy homes and all that at the exits to the interstate and on light posts, which are actually illegal. And you could get fined if they figure out who you are. Not that they usually just pick your signs up. The lawn company does. And you got to go put out more. I would just put them on the properties I wanted. Right. So I saved a lot of money just flagging signs everywhere. Yeah, I see less people, but I know what properties I want. And I invariably got contacted by people who would identify those fine. Who knew those owners or prior residents of the property would put me in touch with the owners. That was how I would locate property owners. And right, once you locate them, you got to get in touch with them. Now, the first time you reach out to somebody, they're probably not picking up your phone call. They are probably not reading the mail you send them. You got to send them mail in all kinds of forms. I would send postcards. I would send regular letters, handwritten, addressed envelopes with handwritten letters in them. And my favorite letter was, hey, my name's Gilbert. I own a house very close to yours. I'm looking for a home I could buy for a reasonable price that I can put move my grandmother or my mother into because she's getting older and I want her to be close to me. Your house.
Oh, you dirty dog, you.
People
pull the heartstrings, huh?
Right, people respond to that. And then it becomes down to negotiating on price. So I don't know if, we've gotten into that, but you have to, understand the value proposition you're giving. I used to find properties, I wouldn't even just ride for dollars. I would pull the city or county's demolition list and say, what properties have been flagged for demolition in the next year or 6 months? What properties have come up as code enforcement dangers? Because maybe those are good properties for me to go after the owner. If you have a statement that you can say to the owner, hey, look, I found your property on a demolition list. The city's going to tear it down and put a $30,000 lien against the property. I can stop them, and I would be willing to pay you something to just not have you get a lien placed against you for $30,000. Sometimes that absentee owner is like, oh man, I didn't even know. I haven't been getting any information about that house. Yeah, I'll sell it to you. And I picked up properties for as little as $5,000 that way, plus the cost of sending a lawyer to stop the demolition and talking with code enforcement. And sometimes it's really just a conversation with code enforcement. Hey, I got a contract to buy this house. I have the experience to fix it up, and I'll have it back in commerce within 6 months and fully safe and occupiable, right? So how do you get in touch with those lenders? A few different ways, My People Finder or TruePeopleFinder.com. There's a million of these websites that if you have a name of an owner and an address that you can tie to, they're going to give you all kind of potential relatives and those people themselves if they haven't cleared their public information off there, right? The skip tracer is usually $50 to $100 per search, and they generally find folks for you and get you good contact information on it. There's also websites you can sign up for and pay money to get better information on a particular name or person. There's subscription services for it. So all those ways are methods whereby you can locate a property owner. But I'll tell you, my most effective way of getting in touch would be to, hey, so-and-so, your neighbor from whatever said that you have this home and he wasn't sure what the status was. And I was just calling to find out if you would be willing to take some cash to not have to deal with it anymore. Because if you make the offer and if you do the work to where you're the only one offering money for a particular property, you're going to get a better price than if that person is riding around looking at the "We Buy Houses" signs and getting offers from 5 or 6 people. That's why it matters. You know, Rodney was talking about driving for dollars. Other ways of finding properties are demolition lists, code enforcement lists, vacant homeowner lists are just fine if you want to send out mass mailings, but those can be pretty expensive. Identifying and targeting properties that other people may not have is going to be the way to get you the best deal possible, right? And the focus really should be, how do I get in touch with the owner or decision maker? A lot of times, the owner may be dead. And so knowing the neighbors and getting the neighbors' info to find out, hey, so-and-so died about 10 years ago. He had 2 kids. This was the kids' names, and neither one of them has done anything with this house since then. Well, maybe you can get the house for the price of paying for succession and paying each kid a couple grand for their trouble, right? So there's a lot of options on getting the properties and finding the properties. And what is critical is you identifying what method is going to get you in touch with these homeowners. Again, my lowest cost method was putting signs on the property itself that said, no, and be honest with the people. If they do sell your house, walk over to their house and give them a check and tell them, look, I'll pay you for any other house you see that's vacant around here if you know who the owner is, and they might be willing to sell it to me too. And guess what? Now you got what's called a bird dog out there looking for properties for you. You got your phone number, and they might be riding around searching out properties you weren't even in the neighborhoods looking for. And so that is how it works, right? So one of the oldest teachers in Florida is a guy named Ron LeGrand, and that was his preferred method, sending out bird dogs. And he built this whole business on training people how to wholesale, but they would have to bring the deals to him because they didn't have no money or expertise on how to put the deal together after they identified a property, right? So by paying out rewards and by marketing on the properties you see or you want, even if it is that demo list, if you go throw a sign on a demo list property, hey, looking to buy this home, the city's going to demolish this home, looking to contact the owner. If they sell it to me, I'll pay you. And then by sending those heartstrings letters, like I mentioned, if you can't get them on the phone, send multiple letters, multiple forms. I would do yellow paper with red ink. I would do yellow paper with blue ink. I would do pink paper. I would do pink paper with blue ink or pink paper with black ink. I would do white paper with orange ink or purple ink or green ink. I just wanted to know that this was a handwritten letter asking them to help me help them, right? And people answer handwritten letters because they're so used to just getting bills in the mail. So don't send it in a regular size bill envelope. Send it in one of them square thank you card envelope. Send them a thank you card. That worked really well for me too. You send a thank you card with a little $5 gift card to Starbucks. Hey, I saw a property at so-and-so looking to get in, figure out if you're interested in selling it. I just want to thank you for taking the time to read this and give me a call. And guess what? Everybody opens a thank you card. They don't even know who it's from, but they think they deserve to be thanked for something, right? So it's an easy way to get people to open the mail because the number one thing is getting them to open the mail, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that's about what I have. I got about 2 minutes for any kind of questions. If you guys have them, you can key them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask them. But
Gilbert, don't forget to before you go is to put your contact information in the chat. So, does anyone have anything for Gilbert? I'm going to pick up a little bit where he left off. I know Gilbert was so easy. Gilbert, don't forget your phone number. Was so gracious to spend some time with us before he goes to his next meeting. Any question with Gilbert? Okay, so Gilbert, again, thank you. I know you have to run. I'm going to pick up where you left off. If there are any questions later on for you, I will make sure that you guys can send it to me, and then I'll make sure that Gilbert gets those questions. All right, thank you again.
All right. Yeah, have a good day.
All right, so what Gilbert mentioned is that you have the demolition list, some other lists that you can consider for people who in trouble is there's a list for there's a foreclosure list. Those lists are kind of expensive, but there's a list of turnoffs. When someone is not is in trouble, certain things that they stop subscribing to normal subscription stuff. But then when you see the water get turned off or electricity getting turned off at a location, those are indicators that something major is going on, something that property is distressed. So that is a great list to great way to get your list going. So what you got is that you identified the area. So you've driven the area. You know that the area has is an area that you want to do some wholesaling in. Remember, you want an ugly house on a good street in a good area. That's the trifecta. You want a home that is high grass, needs some cosmetic work, not a lot, but some cosmetic work, or even a lot of cosmetic work, because ultimately when you sell this home property to your buyer for this property is a flipper. It's not a person that's going to be moved in necessarily, because most of these properties will not qualify for financing other than possibly conventional financing. But most of these properties are properties that a flipper would then take, do the cosmetic work, and then sell that ultimately to a end buyer, we call that buyer a C buyer. So you're the A person, you're selling it to a B person, which it would do the work, and then the B person will sell it to a C person, which is the ultimate consumer. Okay, so when you hear A, B, and C deals, that's what we're talking about. Those are investor language. The property goes from A to C, means that the property comes from the originator, the person who is the seller of that property or have equitable interest in that property, i.e. a wholesaler. And then it goes to the end user, which is the C person. But if you say it's an A, B, and C deal, then that means that the wholesaler, is selling it to an intermediate who's going to do some work on the property or position that property in some way, and then will ultimately sell it to the end user. So that's what we're talking about with respect to wholesaling. Any questions about kind of some of the terminology or languages or anything like that? Because I'm going to dig a little bit deeper, start talking about the paperwork and the back end, more of the back end. Any questions? If you have questions, I want a little house note. If you go into the chat bar, you can either do it two ways. You can unmute your video and just kind of wave at me. But we have quite a few people in the room. So if you go into the chat bar, which is right, if you look at your Zoom link, it's right at the bottom to the right. Usually it's the middle one. On my screen, you have one that says participants, you have chat, and then save. You just click on the chat bar, and in the everyone, you can send it to everyone. You can send it directly to me. Your question that you have, there it is. I see someone sent it to me privately. Say, got it, good. And if you have any questions, just send it to me. I'll read your question, and then I'll answer it. Because if you have a question, probably someone else in the room has it, or someone that's viewing this training session may have the exact same question. So feel free to send any questions. There's no bad questions. Just send it over, and then we'll get it answered. All right. So, recapping just a little bit. We found that property. We made sure that property has potentially has room on the meat on the bone. It has room in that property for you to get it under contract, to then sell the paper to a flipper. The flipper then repair it to flip the property, and then ultimately send it to an end user. So I'm going to use the hypothetical $100,000 property that will sell for $200,000 after repair value. After the home is fixed up, it will sell for $200,000, just for easy math, to a buyer. That's our hypothetical. Okay, so Rodney talked about getting that $100,000 property that he's already canvassed the area. He knows that I'm going to do a hypothetical area. Heights, the Tampa Heights area is pretty hot right now. So he found an older property in Tampa Heights. It was ugly. It had some lots of grass growing and paint, possible roof problems, but the area itself is a pretty good area. It's maybe walking distance or a short walk or a long walk from everything that's happening downtown and Armature Works project, all of that area that's really blossoming. This house is maybe, let's say, a 15-minute walk from there. Okay, so it is right on the cusp of a very, very good area. You have all that stuff going on in the Riverwalk area in downtown. This is a good property. So we've already established that. Okay, we looked at county records. We did a skip trace type software, some software that will identify the true owner of that property. And that's the key, is that sometimes people buy property under company names, and so you want to get a software that will identify who the true owner is. So you're not spending time calling dummy corporations or going through gatekeepers or something like that. So you know who the property owner is. Okay, you reach out to that property owner and say, hey, I am interested in buying your property and you guys negotiate the amount, which is a skill all unto itself. You want to be fair. You want to negotiate a property that has the meat on the bone, but then also is attractive to the owner. Now, if the property is extremely depressed, or like on a demolition list or pending something, that owner is going to be pretty motivated. So you want to have, we're not talking about the strategy of the price now. Maybe we would make that another session, but you want to get the property to answer the owner need, the pain point, but then also make sure that there's enough room, knowing that you have to sell it to a B buyer, which is the flipper, and he has to make some money so he can sell it to the C. So there's an art in there. But let's say you got that property for $100,000, and again, you under contract for $100,000, and the property is worth $200,000. Okay, so there's meat on that bone. That's a good bone. That's a good sized bone. That's a big boy bone. Usually there's not that much meat on that bone, but we got a lot of meat on the bone. And so you figure that all of the legwork that you've done, all of the paperwork and follow up that you needed had needed to do to contact the owner is worth $15,000. So you want to sell that property to the end user. Your end user, which is your B buyer, for minimum $15,000. Okay, so again, if you sell that property to that flipper you have just made out of thin air $15,000 once it closed. You do that 10 times, you made $150,000. All right, so you've done your due diligence. You have now going to sell that property to an end user, which is the flipper. So you're keeping in contact with these flippers. You're keeping in contact with these people that has the money, that are real cash buyers, and you say, Mr. Flipper, hey, listen, I got this great property. Here are the characteristics of the property: 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's in a desirable area. I did some initial canvassing of the property, and it looks like it needs 30,000 to 40,000 in repairs. But then after you get that put that $40,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 in, you can sell this property for $200,000. So potentially, and that is attractive to a flipper. If I'm a flipper and I'm saying, wow, this guy's giving me a property. I put 30,000 in. He said 40, but I can probably get away with 30, and I've made a potential, $60,000. Well, how much is it going to cost me? Well, Mr. Flipper, for me to give you this property, I have equitable interest in the property. I'm already under contract with the owner. I want $15,000 as an assignment. Flipper said, okay, so now I'm making $50,000 once I repair this property. Okay, that seems like a deal to me. So he then assigns I, as a wholesaler, would then assign that property to a flipper. My buyer, which is going to be a flipper. Okay? And then that flipper will then do what he do. He's going to get his crew in. He's going to fix the roof. He's going to paint that bad boy looking good. He's going to do some other cosmetic stuff, maybe put some appliances in. He's going to position that property so that it is attractive to his end user, which is the ultimate consumer of the property, the ultimate buyer. So right now he's into that property. Remember, you have the contract for $100,000. You assign that contract to him for $15,000. So now he's into the property for $150,000, right? So he's going to put what, 30,000, 35,000, maybe 40,000. So he's looking at around a $50,000 payday once he gets his property done. That is meat on the bone. Everybody eats off of that deal. The owner, that's a win-win-win deal, and that's what we want to do. The owner doesn't have that property anymore. You remember that it's on a demolition list, so he stands to, that property could have been, in a couple of months, could have been zero value to him, or he has a lawsuit saying from code enforcement saying bring that property up to speed, or else, So he got his money out, and most of these properties you're going to find that the owner owns it free and clear. So he got $100,000 in his property when it's in his pocket when it closes. From nothing, he was making nothing on the property. So $100,000 from nothing that's a win for him. That's a win. So that's win number one. Win number two is that you have assigned it to someone that's going to pay you $15,000 when it closes. So you just driving around, doing some paperwork, doing that hustle. Remember I said the last class that you got to have hustle. So you, out of hustle, you made $15,000 in 2 months of work, maybe. It's not like you're focusing 2 months on this property. You're looking at all the properties. So you may have dedicated maybe a couple of weeks' time to that particular property, finding the property, finding the owner, negotiating the deal. That's what you did. All those cost very little to zero money. Very little money. Okay? So you made $15,000 for that work. Out of that, your cost may have been $1,000, if that. Okay. And then lastly, the flipper it's a win for the flipper, because the flipper will then take that property, fix it up, use his money, or use his line of credit, or use his his bank's money, or friend's money, or credit card money, or something like that. Fix that property up, and then sell that property to a buyer for $200,000. So he has made his $50,000. So everybody is eating off of that. Everyone is eating off of that. Yes, Dawn, you have a question, or someone? Someone came out their mic. Anyone have a question?
Hey, yeah, this is Don Draper. I wanted to ask you, can this business model be applied to mobile homes?
So mobile homes, it depends on the mobile homes. Mobile homes not real property. And so, and most people most flippers will not see a value in buying a mobile home. I don't know of any flippers currently are using mobile homes as a for flip. Now, what I do know that is that if you're looking at are you looking at individual mobile homes, Don, or a mobile home park?
In the individual mobile homes.
So yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of demand for that. To be quite honest with you, there is demand for mobile home parks though, and so the same concept could be used for mobile home park, except that your zeros are going to be more. So instead of buying that property for 100,000, 100,000, you may buy that property for 500,000, 600,000, a million, but the concept is the same. So yeah, I don't know of any current strategy for mobile homes, but mobile home parks, yes. So, and Don brings up, this same concept could be used. Don't just think small. You want to get your steps in small, but the same concept could be used for anything. You can buy, there was a town that I read in a paper for 1.2 million that you can buy a whole city. And that, if you got game and hustle and some your ducks in a row, you can negotiate that probably as a wholesale deal. Probably. I've never done it that large, but the concept is the same. Any other
Awesome.
questions? Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is Don again.
Right.
I kind of came in late, so you may have already addressed some of this. But could you give us a synopsis or snapshot of what the market is looking like in the Tampa Bay region, including Orlando, West Central Florida?
Okay, our market is the Tampa Bay and surrounding areas. So the Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete, and surrounding. So I can't speak to Orlando or further out, but in the Tampa Bay area, there is a huge demand for for inventory. There's not a whole lot of inventory on the market. Everyone is scared, and I would suggest that probably that is statewide. But again, this is corner class Tampa, so we focus in the Tampa Bay area. But from my as I am a broker, full disclosure, everyone, I am a broker. When I put on my broker hat and I look at the numbers from NAR and some of these other statewide agencies that provide us information, it also states that there is a shortage of available homes in the market. So for sure, Don, in the Tampa Bay area, absolutely. And most likely throughout the state of Florida, you can use the same technique.
Okay,
Don,
and then I guess the other question I had was that do you suggest someone getting into wholesaling set up an LLC or some sort of business entity to get into it?
Perfect, good, great question. Is this a business? It is a business, Don. In fact, the next Corner Class Tampa, I'm gonna have a lawyer on that's gonna tell you exactly how to set up your business, because this is a business, and I strongly suggest that you set up an LLC to run the business. Can you do it without it? Yes. Is that a good business practice? No. Two main reasons why. You want to treat it, if you don't set up as a business, most likely you're not going to treat it as a business. You're going to treat it as a hobby. You're going to make less money. You're going to lose out on opportunities. If you start off with a business mindset that this is my business, you typically treat it as a business. And also, if something happens, you're not personally attached to that. So if you do it as an individual, guess what? Everything that you own is at risk. So something happens, then you own a house, they can take the house, the car, the wife, the kid, the dog, anything that everything is at risk. If it's your business, so what? You fold up your business have no assets. If you are wholesaler. What asset do your business have? You know, did you buy a business car? You know, do you have a vehicle that's in the business name? Most likely not. Do you have equipment that's in the business name other than maybe a camera? Probably not. So if they go after you as Don Draper LLC, who cares? There's no assets there. So most lawyers are going to say, hey, what's in it for me as a lawyer? You want me to sue this guy, and the guy has no assets. So you're going to be paying me much. You still pay me, Mr. Sewer, $5,000 or more for my time, but you're not going to recover anything. So that's why you want to definitely have it in a LLC and treat it as a true business, because this business can potentially make you a ton of money. Anyone else? Don, you have some great questions. Thank you. Anyone else have some questions? So I'm going to move on to some more technical points. All right. So I used the word, and I kind of thought that you guys, I kind of used the word that I thought I would get a question on. I said assignment. Anyone knows, type in the chat bar if anyone knows, type Y if anyone knows what assignment means. Type yes, they know what assignment is. That's what I thought. Now remember, guys, this is interactive. If you don't know a term that is, an assignment is critical as a wholesaler. So if you don't know a term or if you have a question, please feel free to ask your questions, because I am here to answer. I'm here to help. Assignment is how you transfer that property from your control to the flippers. You are signing that paperwork. So when you're working with when you have your purchase and sale agreement, there's 3 ways where you can set up that agreement, and you want to work with your realtor on this. But you can say that I'm going to buy it and it's for my use. I'm going to buy it but I'm still I cannot assign, meaning that I can't transfer that paper to someone else. I cannot. I have to close on the property. Okay. Then they have another section that says, basically, I'm gonna use layman terms, is that I can assign it to someone else. I can give that paperwork to my flipper, but if I'm responsible for the close, I need to make sure I'm still held responsible to close on that property. Now, if you have no money, you want to make sure you don't assign the contract with those two, because you have no money. You're just moving the paper. So you want to make sure that your realtor, and you get through your realtor, you get into contract with the owner, saying that I can assign the property. Okay, that's the last little check mark on your purchase and sale agreement. All right, in that section. What that means is that you can fully say that, okay, my equitable interest, my $100,000 that we negotiated, Mr. Seller, I can then sell that at my cost, at a cost that I determine, to my flipper. And so you can say, hey, I got it from you for $100, Mr. Seller, and we're on the contract, but you said that I can assign the property, and I'm going to assign this property to this flipper for $115,000. The delta, the difference between that is the assignment cost, and that's your money, guys. You get to pick that. If you think you can get $20,000, you can say my time is worth $20,000. If it's a super sweet deal, you can say my time is worth $50,000. You get to pick that. Now, remember, you're selling it to a flipper. So the flipper is going to be looking at how much skin on the game it is for him. So he may say, yeah, you might want to sell this paper to me for $50,000, but I'm only going to give you $20,000. Still $20,000 for a week or two of hustle. That's not a bad deal. And you're making money out of no money. So having the contract, that assignment clause primarily is the key to that contract. So having that assignment clause saying that you can assign the property is to your buyer, which is the flipper, is That's the heart of the deal, because you have no money. Now, let's say for some reason that I'm sorry, I want to make sure that I put a pin in that. Does anyone have any question about assignment? Because you won't get paid if you can't assign this property, if you don't have any money to close. Any questions, you can put it in the chat bar, or raise your hand, or speak out, unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Don Draper here. With assignment, where do you get those documents from? Is that something that an agent has, or?
Most people work with a realtor. And so you want to, and we covered this last class, Dawn, but I'll hit it briefly, is that part of your tools that you need to do the job, part of your team, you should have someone, especially if you're new, is maybe a mentor, who he probably has a realtor relationship, or he's knowledgeable about the contracts that's going to be used, or a realtor themselves. And so most realtors will work with wholesalers. If the wholesaler is up front, instead the wholesale, and you tell the wholesaler that you'll be on the back end, because you got to make it, again, it's got to be a win-win-win. So if you say, Mr. Realtor, I want you to help me negotiate these contracts with the sell, I'll line them up. But when we get to the buyer that want to do business, I'm not a expert contract negotiator. I'm the guy that's finding the deal. I want you to get write the contract that's in my favor. Okay, so you're dealing with the seller to write to get the property on the contract, and make sure, and the realtor, if he's worked this out, will know that you got to have that contract has to be assignable, and he would know the right paperwork to use. So part of your team should be a realtor. And if you need one, I'll put my information in. Again, I'm a broker. We have realtors that are seasoned realtors that works with investors. Okay. Any questions about that assignment piece? Because I'm going to go into the paperwork a little bit. Is credit score a factor? No. Nope. You don't have to worry about credit score. All you got to do is convince the owner that you can give him whatever's negotiated at the time. That's what's so sweet about wholesaling. You have to have no money and no credit. You got to have a hustle. You got to have a team. You got to look professional. You got to convince the other side that you can go through the deal, but you need no money, no credit. Any other questions? All right, so we've had some really good questions today. So I'm going to go with the last little piece. This is the piece that you get paid with. So you make your money when you buy and get them under contract. Now, you've already established a relationship with people that are actually going to flip the property. Most of these times, these guys buy this property cash. So you're not waiting for traditional 30 days, 25 days, 20 to 30 days to close. We're talking 10 days, guys. We're talking 10 days if you have everything lined up. Once it's on the contract, maybe less. Once that title clears, you can close. So the title company is important. That you want to use a title company that's friendly to investors. And none of this is illegal, but some title companies are, it's not every day that title companies see a person that's been assigned a contract. So while it's not illegal, if a title company is used to doing traditional deals, not investor deals, it's going to look funny to them because they got to do another paper. Typically, title companies take the money from the buyer, which is the flipper, and give it to the seller. There's no middleman in there. There's no assignee in there. But if the title company works with investors, they're used to having an assignee in there. So having a third party is not going to look funny to them. But having a third party having a title company that is not used to a third party in the transaction, it will look funny to them. So the team that you work with, which is your ultimate buyer, which is the flipper again, and the title company and the realtor should be comfortable are knowledgeable with working with investors, with investor deals. So that's it. That's how you, when you have the working with no money, buying property with bad credit and no money, they're talking about wholesaling. And this is the truth about wholesaling that we gave you today. All right. Any questions? We're going to wrap it up with questions, and then I'm going to put my information in the chat bar. If you have anything else, just let us know. 1 second. Let me.
Hey, this is Don Draper again. I wanted to ask you, understanding opportunity zones, how important is that to wholesaling? And does it even matter?
Opportunity zones are well, this strategy works in and out of opportunity zones, but opportunity zones are super important because you have other things that come into play. If you have typically it's fast track for zoning variances and stuff like that. That's more of an advanced technique. But then also it's where everyone is looking at as possible opportunities. It literally is. I hate to use the same word, but there are opportunities. There are potential opportunities in there. And so there's always some type of, the example that I gave you, which is Tampa Heights, is an opportunity zone. And 3 years ago, there were just a little back history. There was a group of us getting together that wanted to take take a closer look at that, and we were beat out. So out of that particular by the big money people that the hedge funds. And so if you can find something in an opportunity, and that whatever piece of that you can get, most likely it's going to be okay if the opportunity is not rough. Sulphur Spring is an opportunity zone that my business model would not at this time look at. But a year from now we might, so opportunity zones are pretty good in some cases. But again, you don't have to go there. If you can go to a nice area when again you have the house, the ugliest house on a pretty street, and you do your evaluations and there's there's meat on the bone, that may be the one for you.
Okay, cool. I heard you say evaluations. Will you be offering any courses or any know-how on how to do proper evaluation?
So this, Dawn, is a lot of these people that you go to online, their main purpose is to sell you something at the end. I wanted to make sure that I structured this class as a free, 100% free give, where you can take information from this class and go forward to make money. Now, and that's why we put our information in, and then if you want to outside of the class, come to me or any of the expert contributors, and we can talk about ways to get you get more detail with you and to get you into the game. And so absolutely we have ways that we can do that. But I want I want to be true to what we're trying to do here, which is again give 100% free, no strings attached information so people can make money in real estate. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my information in the chat bar. I don't see the everyone link here. Jackie is my assistant. Jackie, could you put my information in the chat bar to everyone? I don't see the link for some reason here for everyone. And then Don, I'm going to send it to you right now. So Dawn, I'm sending you my email and my direct phone number. And so hit me up outside of this and we'll talk about that, brother. Okay? Dawn, did you get it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So that's the corner class for today. Do we have any questions? Any final questions? As always,
I hate to be the teacher's pet, but I'm a very curious person. If you were new to the game, like a lot of us are, ready to get in wholesaling, had just a couple $100, how would you leverage that money? What would you do first?
so you need some material for, and wholesaling is definitely the technique you want to use. But again, you missed first couple of classes because you may have access to capital that you didn't think about. You want to get the material to that Gilbert mentioned, the stuff together, the signs, personal thing, the strategy. That's only a couple $100, and then use some money to form your business. That's how you get started, and then you want to start looking at your perfect area. So talk to me, Dawn. Let's do this. I'm going to send me your. I'm gonna have Jackie reach out to you, Dawn, to schedule a 15 minutes free call for between you and I, and then I'll get you started, get you squared away. How about that?
Sounds great.
Okay, hold on a second, guys. I want to make sure that. Okay, so remember we talked about CCT 6. Corner Class Tampa 6. We're going to have a lawyer. We're actually going to have my lawyer, to be fully disclosed. We're going to have my lawyer that I use to form my enterprise. I have a brand of companies that she has so graciously volunteered her time to answer questions about how to set up a business. And so she's very, very skilled, very talented. She's going to be on the call next Corner Class Tampa CCT 6, which is going to be the second Wednesday of this month, the second Wednesday of the month. She's going to tell you everything about forming your own company. So guys, if you guys don't know, lawyers are pretty doggone expensive. I'm not going to tell you what her cost is, but I can tell you it's more than $300 an hour. Okay, I can tell you that. If you can talk to a $300 plus an hour lawyer for free, I strongly suggest that you take your time to come back to Corner Class Tampa. She will answer all the questions that you need about how to start your business and how to make real money in Tampa using real estate as your vehicle. All right, guys, thank you. I'll see you guys next Corner Class Tampa, third Wednesday of this month. Talk to you soon.
That you understand it. Don't tell me that I'm too demanding. I need you to show me you're taking this too slowly. Don't tell me that you're what I need. No, I believe that when I see so.